Here I've got for you the REI Half Dome 3 Plus. The 3 Plus means that it is a 3-person tent. However, it's designed intentionally to give you more room than your average 3-person tent. So that's what that means. And it is true. It is actually very roomy for 3 people. I want to show you how I set this up, go over some of the features with you, and show you how I like to take it down. So it is a little breezy today, and a good idea, because these things are so light, is to stake out at least one side of it. The wind's blowing up this way, so I'm going to stake this side out. Just watch set everything else up. The pole for this is really easy to use. It's all one giant hub, so you just have to take the time to extend all the pole pieces. So those go together really pretty fast and easy, and it's symmetrical. You can have it either way, which is nice. The one thing that you can do is just make sure that all 4 of the black poles go to the corners, and that these orange ones here go into the middle above the door. There's a little orange grommet right here. So that's it for the poles. You'll notice that obviously it still needs to be connected. There's clips that go around. I like to start low and work my way up. And I'm going to put the last 2 stakes in the corners just to get this nice and taut. The stakes that this tent comes with when you buy it are very plain, regular aluminum shepherd's hook style. They do the job. However, if you have really soft soil or something, you might consider getting something with a little more holding power. So while it's easy to see through it, I want to do a walk around and show you some of the features of the tent before I put the rain fly on. So here we have the tent all set up, as you can see. It's fully mesh on the top. It has 2 doors on each side. The tent is symmetrical. There's not a head and a foot, so you can set it up however you want. The pole system connects into these little grommets, and the little black buckle there is for the rain fly to attach. It's a very simple tent to set up. If you notice up here on the top, this mesh, there are on each side a 3 slotted organizer, which is really nice to help organize things inside the tent. And by both doors, this pocket right here, which you can read upside down, says the door stuff pocket. These doors, the way that they work is you can unzip them all the way, and they are only attached at the top. And when you do that, rather than the zippers falling down into the dirt, you can stuff them up out of the way in the ceiling. I'll show you what that looks like. It's very simple. And then each of the 4 corners does have a sewn-in pocket in the corner as well. The tent has this waterproof bathtub floor, that's the dark green, and in the middle, that's a regular piece of nylon that helps prevent some of the splash from really heavy rain. And then, of course, the upper is all mesh for really good ventilation. Here's how the door works. Really easy to do with one hand, and then it gets out of the way. There's a pocket for it right up here. That's a great feature, really nice. All right, putting the rain fly on is also very simple. It is symmetrical. There's not a head and a foot side. All you really have to do is locate the 2 doors and just make sure that they are on the side of the tent with the doors. So I've got a door here. And if you go through the top of the zipper, you can find these orange grommets, just like the orange poles. And then you can put that directly right onto that. Once those 2 are on, you can go around to each corners. There's a really simple buckle system. One thing before I connect it all the way, you can see this red Velcro here. Inside the tent on each one of these areas, you can put this Velcro on the pole if it's really windy or if you want the fly to be connected a little bit more firmly. And after I have all 4 clipped, I like to go back and retension them. If you start tensioning too early, you might take the fly and not have it centered on the tent. This particular tent, both of the vestibules have 2 stakeout points, which I actually prefer. I think it's easier to get the vestibule set up correctly. It uses these little adjusting line locks. So the tip with these is get them started a little bit and then stake out the loop. You need to try to keep this line in line with this seam. That really helps out. This one over here works exactly the same. Now the rainfly is on, vestibule is staked out. It has a really large vestibule. There are 4 of these, 2 on each side of these vents. When the weather is really bad, there's Velcro. You can close this up completely, but almost all the time I leave these open. And they're really nice to get ventilation through the top and let any kind of condensation come out if you're in these sort of conditions. One thing, when you open the door, it changes the tension of the vestibule. But what's really nice about having the adjustable foot here is that you can take this, retension it, and it'll hold it safe a little bit better. You'll just have to make sure to loosen it before you try to zipper the door again, so you've changed all the angles of the geometry of the. Here's a look with the vestibule rolled back. And from the side, that's the pull bag in there. You can see you actually have a pretty huge vestibule. There's a lot of room. Here's the inside of the tent. So let's talk about some of the features that I really like on this tent. I love how simple it is to set up. You have one pole hub system. You don't have to worry about losing anything. It's symmetrical. And that part is really just fast and easy to do, even in the dark or when you're tired. I like how easy the rainfly goes on. Again, it's symmetrical. It doesn't matter as long as you have the doors with the doors. That's all you need to do. This tent has really good ventilation for the summertime, with it, the entire upper being mesh and also having the ability to roll these vestibule doors back so you can get a nice cross breeze through there, plus the vents on the top really help with that. I've been rained on in this on camping trips, and it does a really good job being weather resistant. I haven't gotten the inside wet at all. Another thing I really like about this tent is for its size, for a 3-person tent, there is a ton of room inside of it. This is the tent that we use when there's myself, my wife, and our 2 dogs. And one of our dogs is 100 pounds, so he's almost like having a 3rd person. But we're able to fit comfortably, all 3 of us in there. I also like the price point of this tent. This isn't a very expensive tent for its size and for what it is. I think it's a very good value. This tent focuses on using materials that are much more durable and cost less. I really like how the doors can get up out of the way and how they lift up and not down. I've had to have zippers replaced on tent doors before because they've gotten a lot of grime and crud in them, like sand, and then you go to zip them and it starts to bend things that shouldn't get bent inside the zipper. I really like the organization with the 4 pockets at the corners, and I especially like that there's more organization options up on the top. Truth be told, I don't have a lot about this tent that I don't like. I think that it's a very good value for what the tent is. It's not trying to be an ultralight backpacking tent. It's about 6 pounds, which is heavy, but not really for a 3-person tent that's meant to be roomy and durable. What I use this tent for personally is canoe camping and car camping. If we're driving someplace and going to set up, this is what I bring because it's got a very big footprint. And also canoe camping, weight isn't as critical of a concern. So if we're doing a family canoe camping trip, this is the tent that I like to bring for that. I think the only things I can think of about why this tent might not be the best choice for you would be how big it is. It is a 3 plus, meaning it takes up more room than your average 3-person tent. So if you are trying to set up in places where space is limited, this might be tricky to find a good tent selection site for. The other thing is it's not intended to be a backpacking tent, but it is light enough that if you were to split it up between 2 or 3 people, it's not impossible. So it is a bit heavy if you're trying to use it for a backpacking tent, but it's not really designed to be an ultralight tent anyway, but it has the ability too, which is nice. The only other thing to consider is that it's not a stand-up tent. To put in proportion, I would say that it's roughly 45 inches at the center. There's a ton of headroom and you can sit up in there without touching the walls by any means, but it's not a tent that's meant to be walked around inside of. So I'll show you how I like to take the tent down. It really is just the same as setting it up but in reverse, but I'll show you how I like to fold it up so it stores really nicely and fits into the stuff sack very easily. I recommend putting these doors and zippers down and closed, so that way when you store the tent, there's less likely an issue with something bunching up or whatnot. When it's not windy, I'll usually go around and pull all the stakes from the whole perimeter and undo and loosen all of the rainfly corners. It's not very breezy right now, so I'm going to do that. However, keep in mind that if it is windy, this is when you're taking the chance that this big wind sail here could get blown into brush and get damaged. So better safe than sorry, but I'm pretty comfortable with the lack of wind right now. Don't forget to take those orange grommets off of the center pole here. Once it's all disconnected, I like to grab it from the top by both of the doors and lift it straight up so the two sides fold together. And then I just fold it kind of into thirds the long way. And that's all I do for it, is just fold it the 3 times. For the tent, this part's really simple. Just go around and undo all the clips. Lastly, make sure you take the orange grommets outside of the poles. I like to keep the stakes in the bag with the poles just so I don't lose them. So I just tuck them right down inside here. For the main body, I like to do it into thirds. Next, I like to take the rain fly, place it right up on top. One tip whenever you're trying to store any tent you have is that the stuff sack was shipped with the tent in it, designed to fit the poles. So you never have to fold the tent to roll up or fold up smaller than the width of the poles, because it'll still fit in the stuff sack at the end. So I've got it nice and rolled up. Most tents, including this one, will actually give you instructions on how to set up the tent inside the stuff sack. So if you're having a hard time remembering the steps, it's right in there usually. And there you have it. That's how I like to put it away. Let's check the weight of this tent really quickly on my scale. One thing that I really like about a lot of REI's tents is they do clearly label what they are right on it, but it also gives you the dimensions and their claimed weight. So as you can see right here, obviously Half Dome 3 Plus. They're saying for the dimensions, 92 inches long by 80 inches wide by 46 inches tall. And then it tells you down here minimum trail weight That's a really confusing number. I like to go with total packed weight, which includes everything you would need, the number of stakes that it requires, plus the stuff sacks and the rain fly in the inner tent body. So, for example, they claim that it's 5 pounds, 14 ounces. However, on my scale, it comes out at 6 pounds, 4.4 ounces. So if you think about it, it's actually about weighing a half a pound heavier than what they claim on the stuff sack. So just be really mindful of that when you're picking out gear. A lot of companies like to advertise the minimal, whatever they call it, the minimal trail weight, meaning just what's required to pitch the tent up and not necessarily make it secure and include all of the weight of the individual components. Overall, I think really highly of this tent. It's my go-to tent for any time that I don't require a lot of weight savings or space isn't an issue. We also chose to get this tent because we have 2 dogs and it fits them very well. And also because it's not an extremely expensive tent, we're a little bit less concerned about the dogs damaging it or putting little holes in it. And after having it and using it for a few years now, and mostly using it for canoe camping and car camping, there really isn't anything negative that I can say about the tent. I think it's a really good value for what it is. I think that the weight, durability, size that it takes, livability inside, and features are all well designed. I would definitely buy another one of these in the future if this tent was to disappear and I needed to replace it, to get a new tent to do car and canoe camping or taking the dogs places. This is probably what I'd go with again. I don't need to personally go out and spend hundreds more on a tent that I can stand up in. That's just not something that I put a lot of value in. So this tent might be for you if you are looking for an all-around tent that does a great job, that's roomy for the number of people that it claims to fit, and that you value durability a little bit over saving weight, and if you want a better price tag on it too. If you've got any questions specifically on this tent or any of the other gear that I've reviewed, please let me know. I actually have a consulting website. It's www.linksoutdoorsgear.com. I'll put a link in the description. You can contact me on there for any kind of one-on-one information that you might be looking to get, whether it's on tents, pitching strategies, resupply options, mail drops, any of that kind of stuff. I'm available, so feel free to check out my website.